Hi, my name is Daryl, and today I'm going to do an oil change on my RAV4 Prime. Now, if you happen to watch my previous video where I attempted to do an oil change on my Prime, it was an absolute disaster. So I tried to remove the oil filter with this kind of standard tool for removing the filter, and most people will say this filter is fine, but I guess the Toyota techs, they tightened that filter down so tight that I couldn't get it off. So I ended up actually going to an oil center location and had them do the oil change. And the tech actually came out and said, "What happened to the filter?" Because I was trying to remove it and it was so tight that I squeezed it and actually crushed it a little bit. Yeah, it was really embarrassing. But today, I think I have the correct tool, and so I think it's gonna go perfect. So before we get started, let's go over some of the tools that you're gonna need in order to do your oil change. Basically, we need, some sort of thing to catch the oil. We have both our 14 millimeter socket, and this is to take out the oil drain plug. This is our 10 millimeter little tool, and this is to open basically the trim panel to get to your oil filter and your drain plug. We have this, which is basically your oil filter and your gasket for the drain plug. This is what I was missing last time. So this is the special tool that lets you remove the oil filter if it's on too tight. We have basically a funnel to put our oil in. We have gloves so we don't get contaminated by the oil. So we have 0W16 oil, which is basically the oil that is called for on the RAV4 Prime. We have jack stands, we have tire blocks so that the vehicle doesn't roll on us. And then finally we have a low profile jack that's gonna let us lift the RAV4 Prime, okay? So I think that's it as far as the tools. Now this is the first time I've tried to do an oil change since the last time I was unsuccessful. So hopefully this goes just a little bit better. But the first thing we need to do, warm up the engine a little bit. And so you want your engine oil to be a little bit warm when you're replacing it, so it's easier to drain, and also some of the more of the contaminants get circulated and go out of the oil. So let's go ahead and get our RAV4 Prime started. I'm gonna put it in hybrid mode and let it run for about 5 minutes, and then we'll get started. So the first thing I'm gonna do is raise the front of the RAV4 Prime. That's just gonna give me a little more space to do the oil change, so I'm not kind of stuck underneath the car. Now, typically when doing your service on a RAV4 Prime, so when doing an oil change, you also should be rotating the tires. Now I'm gonna save that for a separate video, but basically if you are gonna get in the habit of doing your own oil changes, you probably should make sure that you have an appropriate low profile jack, as well as 4 jack stands so that you can raise the vehicle totally off the ground for the tire rotation. So let's go ahead and get the wheels chocked, and then we can raise our vehicle. All right, so we're at the front of the vehicle now, and we've got a jack point. So we've got like a little hole here. And so this is metal. This is the official lift point for a jack stand on our RAV4 Prime. Got my jack in place right here. And now I'm just gonna raise that and lift the front. And once again, I want the jack basically hitting the middle of that point right there. Okay, should be good. And I'll lift. For the front, basically our jacking points, or for our jack that came with the vehicle, is right here between these 2 points. Grab one of our jack stands and we'll lift up between those 2 points. Okay, that should be pretty good. And let's go get the other one. Okay, and so similarly, so this is the driver's side. You've got your little jack point right here for the jack that comes with the vehicle. So you lift that. Okay, that should be the same. And now we will slowly lower our jack to put it on those points, to put it on our stands. That's one thing I really like about this particular jack stand. I got this at Harbor Freight, and yeah, it lets you just real slowly lower it so there's no kind of abrupt kind of dropping onto the jack stands, so that's great. All right, so we've got the RAV4 Prime lifted, and now what we want to do is start draining the oil. So first we have to basically unlatch the hood, and then we'll open up the hood. And then what we're going to do is basically just open up the oil fill. And basically what that does is kind of lets air into the system and then lets it drain a little more quickly. All right, so now we're going to get underneath the vehicle and open the oil pan cover with 10 millimeter basically socket, and then we can drain the oil. All right, so we have to remove basically 4 10 millimeter bolts on the cover for our oil drain plug and also our oil filter. So I've got just a little 10 millimeter socket right here. Make this real easy. And now you have access basically to your oil drain plug right here, and also your oil filter, which is where? Oh yeah. And your oil filter, which is right there. Okay guys, so now it's time to drain the oil. Now, if you watched my previous video, I had problems getting the oil filter off, and I wasn't able to do it, and I actually had to take it to like a Valvoline oil place to get the filter off. So I don't want to make that mistake again. So what I'm going to do is just, I got this tool basically to help with the oil filter to get the oil filter out. And so what I'm going to do is just kind of loosen it just a little bit, just to make sure I can get it off, because I don't want to have that same mistake happen again. So let's check to see if we have the right tool to actually get that filter off. And if I can move it, then we can go ahead and drain the oil. All right, so here's our filter. This is kind of a blue color as opposed to the black filter that I have. I don't know what's different about it. And let me go ahead and get the tool on here. All right, so I'm just gonna make a quick run to AutoZone and try to find something else. So yeah, okay, I'll be back in a sec. All right, so I went to O'Reilly Auto Parts and this one seemed to fit. All right, I'm back. So a couple days later, and I'm still wearing the same shirt. So this is the, this is made by Motive Tools. So if this does work, I'll put a link to it on Amazon. The one thing I would recommend that you do, try to just, you know, move that filter just a little bit before you actually drain the oil, because that would suck to drain all that oil and then you can't get the filter off. All right, so let's get underneath the car. Let's get the damn filter off. Okay. All right, so I was able to get the filter remover on, and it really just fit like a glove. So what I'm gonna do now is just put my ratchet on there, basically loosen it a little bit. So here we go. Okay, time of truth. Oh, all right. We successfully moved that filter. So I believe we are good. I think it's gotta be turning. It's actually been a couple of weeks, and I think I was actually thinking it turned because I was able to turn it, which I haven't been able to do before, but in reality, it was basically just spinning around the filter and the filter wasn't coming off. And so yeah, this was supposedly a really good filter tool for the Toyotas, RAV4 or RAV4 Primes. You know, it's just a regular spin-on filter. And at that point, I kind of gave up. I was basically just going to take it to another oil change center and get it done. But then I am like a dog with a bone. I mean, I just hate giving up on things. And so what I decided to do is basically take it back to who did the oil change initially. And I said, hey, I want to start doing my own oil changes. Can you just get it to the point where you loosen it and then just hand tighten it so I can take it off? And yeah, they did that for me. So I was really, really happy about that. So now I got the car jacked up again and on jack stands. And so now I'm going to get underneath. He said he just hand tightened it. So conceivably, I should just be able to use my hand to untighten it. So I'm going to give that a shot just to see if I can untighten it. If I can start to spin it off, then I know I'm good. And then we'll start the oil change. So let's get underneath the car and let's see if I can actually loosen that filter. All right, so I think you can see the filter here. So it shouldn't be that tight. He basically said he just hand tightened it. So let me try to turn it. Let me see what happens. Oh yeah. Yeah, so super easy. So he hand tightened it. I can now loosen that filter without any sort of problem at all. And so what I'm going to do now is go ahead and drain the oil. I did go and I loosened the oil cap at the engine. And so let me get my oil pan and we'll take the drain plug out and we'll start draining the oil. Okay, so I've got my 14mm socket and that will basically allow you to open the drain plug. That's the socket that it uses. Something else that's really tight. Jeez, this is tight as hell too. Great. All right, so this is totally unnecessary. I'm actually gonna have to use a breaker bar to get this thing loose, which is just ridiculous. So let me go ahead and get this breaker bar on it and go ahead and loosen this up. There we go. So yeah, I mean, you know, these people at these oil filter change places, they probably use the impact wrenches and just tighten it up without paying according to manufacturer specs, and just makes it harder for the do-it-yourselfer. But anyway, we got this loose, so let's go ahead and open it up and start draining this out. Hopefully we don't make a mess here. Okay, and so we'll let that drain for a little bit, and then we'll be back to go ahead and pull the filter off and let that drain as well. All right, I'm gonna go ahead and just put the drain plug back in, just so that I can control the leaking from that area, and we're gonna pull the oil filter and get all the oil out of that area. So I did put my gloves on because this is gonna get probably just a little messy. Let's get that oil filter off. And hopefully position the oil pan so it doesn't make too much of a mess on my garage floor. Okay, not too bad. Not too messy. Okay, so we'll let that drain out a little bit. And I think once that looks like that's going, I'm gonna go ahead and open up my my drain plug again, let them both drain out. And so we'll let that drain out for a little while. We're gonna wanna clean things up also just a little bit after everything drains out, and then we'll reinstall the new oil filter and reinstall the drain plug with the new gasket. So we also have a gasket that goes along with our drain plug. All right, so we've been letting this drain now for probably over an hour, and it's still just barely dripping a little bit. We're gonna go ahead and call it a day and install the drain plug. Before we do that, we're gonna kind of clean out this whole area, and so get any sort of the additional excess oil off of here and make sure this kind of whole area is clean and there's no excess oil that could kind of falsely think that we do have a leak after we installed the drain plug. The other thing that we're going to do is also go over to the filter area. So I've got ahead and got this nice and clean. So I'm going to install the drain plug just real quick. Now my drain plug I did already clean off, and I also have installed the new gasket on it. So it's ready to go. So we'll go ahead and install that. And I'm not going to torque that down quite yet. I'm going to go ahead and also just go ahead and make sure this is clean. And now I'm going to also go to where the filter is installed. And I'm going to clean that off as well, making sure I get those threads clean from any sort of excess oil, any sort of dirt or debris. So we've got our oil filter area right here. I think you can see that. I'm going to move in a little closer. And so we've got these threads. So you're going to want to just make sure that we clean those threads off. And then just get that whole area clean. Now what I want to do is basically torque down this drain plug. And so I've got my torque wrench and I got it set for 30 foot-pounds. That's what it calls for. So yeah, don't use an impact wrench and tighten this down like the previous tech probably did. Basically just 30 foot-pounds is all you need. Now if you do get some leaking after you've set it for 30 foot-pounds, you know, you could probably do it a little bit more if there is a leak, but that's what basically Toyota calls for. So we'll go ahead and get that torqued down. Okay, there we go. And so yeah, I could really easily loosen this without having to get a breaker bar on it like I did last time. So yeah, definitely the previous tech that did it tighten both the filter and the drain plug way too tight. So now let's go ahead and get our oil filter and we'll put some oil on it and get it ready to install. So now we're going to prep our oil filter, and basically what we're going to do is we're just going to pre-fill the oil filter with just a little bit of oil. So I just poured some of my 0W16 oil into this little cup here. So I'm just going to kind of fill it up a little bit, maybe halfway or so. Okay, and then the other thing you want to do is you just kind of want to get it around and get it on the gasket. So after it's on there, then you want to basically just get the top of it and the gasket, get it covered with that oil, so that will let it make a really good seal. Put a little more in there. Okay. All right, so now that oil filter is ready. So now let's go ahead and get that installed. So now we're going to go ahead and take the filter and we're going to install it. Oh, okay, this is going to be messy. Okay, so you spin that on. And then basically what you're waiting for is you're kind of waiting for it to make contact with the metal. So turn that and you will just kind of feel it make contact with the metal. Okay, so right about there is where we're feeling it. Now what you're going to want to do is take your wrench, whatever it is that you're using to install the filter, and then you basically want to have it go about 3/4 of a turn around is basically how much you want to tighten it. So I'm going to try to get my glasses on and try to figure out how far 3/4 of a turn is. So let me maybe get some light on there, because I can't really see. All right, so I got my flashlight on here, and so I've got kind of a mark right here, which where the kind of procedure starts, right about here. And so basically I kind of want that for 3/4 of a turn. I kind of want that to end up probably right about here is where I want to see that procedure start to line up, is right about there. So let's go ahead and we're not going to torque it down, we're just going to tighten it. I am going to use the tool that I spent money on to tighten it, and so hopefully it'll I'll get some use out of it anyway. So let me go ahead and get the tool on here. Okay, Really fits like a glove. I don't know why it didn't work on the other one. Ratchet on here. Okay, and get my flashlight back on here so we can see. Okay, so right where that procedure is right there is kind of what we want to see. So we'll get it going. Okay, and now the procedure is showing up right here. So that is pretty much, I think, exactly where we want it. So I think that is about 3/4 of a turn from where we hit the metal and where we kind of started getting some resistance. But once again, if we need to tighten a little bit more, we can. So we're gonna kind of fill it up with oil, start it up, let it run for a little bit. If we get some leaks, either at the drain plug or at the oil filter, we can tighten those down just a little bit. And just clean it up just a little bit more after we've installed everything, because there might have been some leaking as we were putting that oil filter on. So once again, make sure before you start to add oil and start up the engine, make sure that everything is free of oil and potential leaks right here. And then that will help us ensure that any sort of leaking isn't because we had existing oil residue in the area. All right, should be good. Let's go ahead and add some oil. Toyota says that the RAV4 Prime, it takes 4.5 quarts of 0W16 oil. So I've got basically 4.5 quarts in my 5-quart jug of oil, and so I'm gonna go ahead and fill that up. Now, one of the videos I watched on doing the oil change, they started out with 4 quarts and then they added a little bit more and added a little bit more. I'm just gonna put 4.5 quarts in, and then we'll go ahead and check it just to see if it's okay. Okay, so let's go ahead and button up, and then what we want to basically do, I'm going to first check for any sort of oil leaks that are apparent underneath, and if no oil leaks, then I'm going to go ahead and start the engine, let it run for a little bit, let it totally warm up, check to make sure that we don't have any more oil leaks, and then we should be good to go. So I'm excited that I'm gonna finally be successful, kind of successful basically with oil changes assistance with loosening up the oil filter, but I don't think I'll ever have that problem again. All right, so I had a little snafu in basically starting up the car. Got a full battery, and yeah, so I can't start up the internal combustion engine because the battery's full. Usually you could put charge mode on and that will kind of start up the battery as well, but that doesn't work with a full battery. So one little hack that I figured out, I was using the inverter, and I was running my trailer's AC on it, trying to drain it. But something I figured out is if you just push on the accelerator. Oh, I got to put it in hybrid mode. So once you put it in hybrid mode, if you push on the accelerator, yeah, the ICE engine starts right up. So yeah, I'm just going to be basically, I guess, holding this accelerator down for about 5 minutes or so until the engine's warmed up, and then we can check to make sure that we have no leaks. Shoot. All right, so we've had the engine running about for 5 minutes or so, there's absolutely no leaks underneath that I can see. So let me go ahead and get underneath the car and just making sure I'm not missing anything. So there's our drain plug. That looks really dry. Looks like we're good to go there. Let's look at our oil filter. Looks like no sort of leaking developing there, and so we should be good with that. So I think we're all set. At this point, we need to reset. Actually, we need to check the oil. So let's make sure that the oil is filled appropriately. Let's use our dipstick. I don't know about you, but these dipsticks, It's super hard, especially with the how clear that oil is, for me to tell exactly where the oil line is, but I'm gonna give it my best shot. So get it down in there. I'm gonna get it out really fast and kind of look. And to me, it looks like it's kind of like right about there, basically 3/4 of the way towards the fill line. That's kind of what it looks like to me. To tell you the truth, I'm not sure it's actually perfect, but yeah, I've got 4.5 quarts of oil in there, which is what it's called for. So I think we'll just call it a day. I'm gonna go ahead and take the oil cover and reinstall that, and then take it off the jack stands, drive it around for a little bit, and I think we should be good to go. So let's go ahead and finish up. Reinstall the cover. Okay, now we're gonna remove the car from the jack stands. And then slowly lower the car back onto the tires. So one of the things you want to make sure that you don't forget to do is to reset your maintenance, because you don't want that nagging thing telling you to visit your dealer all the time. So basically you just get out of that with the kind of the escape button here, or the back button. And then I always have my screen actually set up for the EV screen, but basically you just use these little arrow buttons to go over, and you want to go to the this screen right here, and then you want to scroll down using the down arrow, and then you want to go to vehicle settings, and you want to hold the OK down to get into that, and then you want to scroll down and you want to go to scheduled maintenance, and then you want to push OK to reset, and then reset data. You want to hit the up arrow and then hit yes. And now the reset is complete, and so you won't get that nagging thing. The other thing that you're probably gonna wanna do is, so this is the receipt where I got my oil from, and so it will have a date. Now the date actually isn't right, because I think I got this a little while ago when I've failed, but at least you've got a record that you actually bought the oil for the oil change. And let me go inside real quick on my computer, and I'll show you, because everybody's really familiar with Carfax. That's what you kind of use when you're buying a car and you want to make sure about the vehicle history. You can actually enter your oil changes into Carfax. Now, it won't actually show up as an official record, but it is something that if you are going to privately sell the vehicle, or let's say, you want to give the vehicle or you're trading in to a dealer, you can show them that record. And I think that would probably help them as well when they send it, or when they try to sell it to another party. So they're like, well, it's missing some records from the Carfax. Well, they can show them the history of the oil change as well as the record entered in a Carfax. So that might help your dealer out too, and might get you a little bit better, more money for the trade-in. I guess Findlay Toyota, they actually put this in for me, which is kind of cool. So that's where I get my car serviced. It says, I have an oil change due. I just did it. So I'm gonna click on view details, and it says my next service is supposed to be at 45,844. We actually did this one at 45,255 miles. And so over here, there's this thing called add service record. So I click on add service record, and I type in the date of the service. So this was May 9th, 50924, and that was 45,255. And I did the oil filter, and it was kind of funny. I did my tire rotation as well, but I'm gonna go ahead and click on that I did the tire rotation as well. And then I'm gonna click on check if this is a self-service, do it yourself. So I'll click on this, and then I'll click on add the record. Okay, and now it says that my basically next service is scheduled for 6,223 miles. So that's kind of cool that Carfax does that for you. And so I'm sure you can print that out, especially if you are a do-it-yourselfer and if you try to sell your car as a private sale. That way it keeps that record both in Carfax and you have the receipt as well. And so that gives you basically everything that you need. So I know this was kind of an interesting video. It actually took a good month to get it done. I kind of delayed the oil change and trying to figure out how to get the filter off. But we did it, and I'm assuming that I'm never going to have to deal with an oil filter that I can't get off again, because I got a good wrench for changing the oil filter, and it's not too tight. So I hope you enjoyed this video. If you learned something, please give the video a like. And also consider subscribing to my channel. I do a whole lot of RAV4 Prime content, as well as other content on this channel about hiking and camping, and it's a lot of fun. So I hope to see you in the next one again very soon.